Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice, and we have our special guest today, two members of the KRAVE Group, Rainey on my right and Richard Varner to Wayne's right, and of course we have Paul on the other side, and this is a special one when we get to speak to these guys, so we're going to talk about all things MotoAmerica this episode. So,
are you really nervous because you're sitting next to Wayne?
I'm very excited, let me just say.
Keep your hand off my leg.
I'm nervous because this is the first time we could actually get fired during the podcast.
So we got to watch what we're saying then, I guess, is what.
Right.
But we're at Barber Motorsports Park this weekend, and it's actually our wrap-up round, which by the time this comes out, actually it'll be out Saturday, so we had a great Friday. I mean, with the resurfacing of the track, it's pretty amazing with the lap times, and tire wear will be something to talk about for sure, but there's a lot of compelling issues. One of the big ones is our schedule for next year, which just came out with, we've got 10 rounds, and I want to talk to you guys about it. We got a couple new tracks on the schedule. Good job you guys getting those tracks for us. So tell us about that. Wayne, talk about the one at the Ridge to start with. How that came about and where it's located.
Yeah, so, Chuck Axlin, our partner, he worked on the schedule. He's been working on that since July, and the Ridge contacted him, and we had actually Chuck went up there and looked at the track and worked with the people there, and they decided to do the work so we could come. So we're super pumped up about that one, and the one at Indy has just been incredible that we're going back there. So everybody knows about Indianapolis.
Right.
I've not been up to the Ridge, but everybody I talk to that I've got some guys that race cars up there, and they say it's really a pretty place, and the track is great, and they love it, and it should be pretty good. And I know they've done a lot of improving up there, and so it ought to be a good place. I mean, it's not been served by racing for a long time.
Yeah, I think since the 80s.
Yeah, Wayne and I were talking earlier in the week.
Yeah, it used to be Kent.
I went there, and he was actually racing like a 500 Honda in like it was like an AMA CCS deal, I think, at the time.
Yeah, I remember I was up there. I think it was 1985. And I was up there riding a McLean Honda.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's where I met Kevin Schwantz.
Right.
And he wasn't in my class. I just watched him go off the track, and I thought, who's that guy?
Kevin's here today.
Yeah, he is.
Let me say one thing.
Yeah.
So Indy, so I guess it was August. It was when MotoGP was at Indy, the second to last year they were there. We had been working with AMA and trying to get this whole deal done. This is before KRAVE even kind of got started, and we were working with AMA trying to get the rights all settled out. And we went to Indy. We met with Dorna, and we met with AMA, and we were down to the last bits on the contract and the whole rights thing. And at the end of the day, we sat in the pagoda, which is, the iconic tower there in Indy.
Yeah.
So Wayne and I and Chuck and Terry and Bill Cumbo and Rob Dingman, and we pounded out the last details and shook hands. That's basically where MotoAmerica started.
Wow.
Why did you decide to go there? Just it was a middle ground or what?
Everyone was there at one time, so we could meet with people and see people. Like a lot of the races, everyone's there. So we were all getting to meet everybody, and it was a convenient place to meet.
Yeah, we've been working on the contract and the idea for probably up to a year before that. And so when the time to hash out all the details, the MotoGP race was there. So it was at that race is where the contract was actually put together.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's kind of like going home in a way. I mean, it's back where we started. So
Yeah,
was that your first ever MotoGP?
No, I think my first one was in Laguna a year before, 2 years before, something like that. So, but
now, one of the things I want to ask you guys about is this.
Hooked.
yeah, it didn't take much.
Look at him now.
I'm like the biggest,
MotoAmerica, 5 years
fish,
later.
biggest
Yeah.
carp in the world. Yeah.
I want to ask you guys about the 10 round thing, because we've had some fans that would say, they're adding a couple of rounds. It's 10 rounds. It was 10 rounds this year. Talk to us about what that means. Is it kind of a thing with the teams? The logistics are better for 10 rounds as opposed to maybe 12, or would we like to have 12 rounds? I mean, tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I think for sure we would like to have more rounds, but I think where the teams are, where the industry is for road racing, this is what works for us. We race in all types of weather, so there's only so many tracks that we can race in the rain, because now we have our TV with our Live Plus show and NBC and Fox 2. So we race live, and so there's a couple racetracks where that doesn't work. So this works good for us right now, 10 rounds, and I think our schedule next year is, from what the team say, they're really pumped up about it. This is right where they want to be, is at 10.
The thing I really like about it too is there's like every other week kind of thing. It's a really good setup. It's not too short, it's not kind of too long. It's a nice way things are going.
The reality is, if we're racing, we have to race in decent weather. I mean, we don't like the rain. It's more fun to watch sometimes, but the rain is an issue. So anything earlier than April, it's difficult for us to really put our race on. And as you get too deep into September, we're up against football, we're up against the weather again. So, and then you take out the Labor Day, Memorial Day, the 4th of July, Mother's Day, and Father's Day. You're down to about 12, 13 weekends.
Your anniversary.
Our anniversaries. You're down to, you don't really have a lot more. I think maybe 14 or 15 weekends. So if you start trying to get beyond that, you start banging up against everything. So that's an issue. Mm-hmm. And then, we're bringing this thing back from kind of down to, I think when we started the year before, it's like 5 events.
Yeah.
So you've got to be aware of what the teams can do, because it costs them more to do more rounds, and it goes kind of up exponentially. So, and then they're away from their family. So it's kind of this thing where the first year was 9, and the second year was 9, third year was 10. It's been there for a while. But, the grids are getting bigger, so it tells us it's getting healthier. So, maybe at some point. And the other thing is the number of tracks.
Right.
That can really handle the event. So, Chuck and Wayne have done a great job of finding different tracks. So we've raced it. This will be 14 tracks by the end of next year. Will be 14 different tracks. So that's really good.
That is good.
And when we started, it was hard to find 9.
Yeah.
And you got to remember is that MotoAmerica events, we have two races on one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So that's 2 complete races that the teams and the riders have to prepare for. So that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of commitment. It's a big investment just to do 2 events on the weekend. But it's it's great for the fans.
Right. Yeah. So one other question I wondered if it came into play with regard to the schedule or where we went or anything. Did you guys have to, with the TV, take into consideration that next year, the Summer Olympics are next year, right? I mean, did that impact us in any way?
Wait on that.
No, except our guys are riding we have a couple athletes that are in the 100-yard dash.
Yeah, that and I mean, they wanted me to come and I couldn't because I had this. But
that's right. He's a diver.
I'm a diver.
For the TV,
cannonballer. Let's go with that.
Guys.
And the parallel bars. Okay, but no, we asked them to move it, and they did. It was really nice. I mean,
that's good. I'm glad it worked out.
It would actually be called the very uneven bars.
Very uneven bars. They don't do the uneven bars. I used to really like to watch. I mean, junior high watching that's pretty cool.
Oh, it is.
That was good stuff.
Absolutely was.
That's the closest we ever got to a date. But or anything else. Actually, we do share one weekend. I think it's the first weekend in August. So the Olympics are at the end of July. We lucked out.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
So we don't share one weekend with them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the TV I'm thinking about. With NBC, I think it's going to be on NBC, so we have a program.
And it's in Japan, so you're not going to see it live anyway. So it's going to be post-produced and canned, and we're on a different...
Yeah, they're on the Olympic channel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Won't affect us too much.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the stuff that we got going on here this weekend. The 2 championships that are the closest are our 2 biggest classes, Superbike and Super Sport. Would you, as a former racer, would you want to be 10 points ahead with 2 races, or would you like the position of being 10 points behind? Because with that situation in Super Sport, neither of those guys need any help. You know what I mean? It's like whoever wins, no matter if the other guy gets second.
I mean, there's a lot of scenarios, but for me personally, I would always pretty much would rather be in front, because they still got to beat you. They got to come up. If you're behind, then you got to make something happen. So, here we are at Barber. I'm not sure what the exact point spread is, but I think if Cameron wins both races, Tony finishes third in both races, Beaubier's champion.
Correct.
Right.
So here we are at Barber, this really beautiful facility, and they got a brand new surface down, and Tony crashed today. You know, high speed, fifth gear, and a big crash. So he's going to be sore starting the race tomorrow. And I believe the two Yamaha guys, Gerloff and Cameron, are first and second right now in pre-qualifying. So, yeah, I think I'd rather be out front.
The track repave kind of throws a whole different thing to it, don't you think? Because
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of crashes today.
Yeah.
So I think it's them finding that there's so much grip, there's so much grip, there's so much grip, and then suddenly there's no grip.
Yeah, with a brand new track, we were the first, really the first racing series on the track. So every time, you know, the classes go out, they lay down more rubber. So each time the riders get on the track, the grip gets better. But where the guys are really struggling here, it looks like, is when they're going around the track and they're on the throttle, everything's good. But as soon as they get off the throttle, the rear unloads just a little bit and then it loses grip. And that's how they're spinning out. So you got to be very gentle. You got to let the track come to you. You got to be patient, but yet still be aggressive enough to, you know, force the pace, and hopefully somebody else makes a mistake. And so far, Tony's done that, but we'll see what happens in the race.
They're on hard tires too, right? Most of these guys.
Yeah, because
Yeah, the hardest.
Yeah, the hardest tire, because, you know, so much grip. It's billiard smooth. So we're already going faster than we did last year by quite a bit. So that's hard on the Dunlop tires, and so they run a little bit harder compound. And so it's not as much feeling yet out of the tires.
Do you think it's going to equalize, guys? I think there's going to be equalization. I mean, Kyle Wyman was doing really well today.
Yeah, he had a good
Yeah, I think
day.
you've already seen that. Like,
Yeah. Cam
Cameron
Peterson
Peterson
did well.
was up there
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a position trying to win a championship where you actually needed somebody else's help? Like you needed the guy to get third or fourth, and
You know, Paul, I was thinking when you asked me that the first time, I was thinking, okay, was I behind in 92? It seems like when I went to South Africa, I think I was ahead of Nick, and I ended up beating him in the race. I ended up third, I think, and he ended up sixth, and I think I beat him by 2 points. He might have been ahead of me going into that race. I don't really recall. It was a long time ago. But all the other championships that I was in that I'd won, I was normally in front at the last race.
fair enough.
That's how I prefer it.
So tomorrow, I was talking to Garrett Gerloff a little bit today, and with Superpole tomorrow, so they're not using a softer front tire. It's a little bit hard, and then that Superpole tire is real soft. So that differential between that hard front tire and that soft rear tire, did you ever experience anything like that? I mean, you never had situations where you had hugely different compounds, did you, between the front and the back?
So Sean, I've been racing a long time.
Yes.
So about 40 years, I think I raced. So I remember when I first started road racing, we could run a Goodyear rear tire and a Michelin front.
Oh, geez.
So yes, I've experienced many different compounds.
And then when he first started is when they put air in them for the first time.
That's right. That's right.
I don't quite recall that, but no, it's you know, you never know what the compound. Like some bikes, like for instance, maybe the Yamaha works a little better with a little harder front tire and a softer rear tire. The Suzuki could be opposite. It, you know, rider preference. Some riders use the throttle different than other riders, so you know, it all depends on the setup. But I think in a track like this, you would want a bike that gives you a good feel from the tires, and that's very predictable. It might not be, you know, the most traction, but I think you got to, with this new surface, you got to let the track come to you. So
Is there a danger of overriding a hard front tire?
yeah, very much so, because a track like this, as soon as you lose the front, as we've been watching in practice, the guys are down immediately, where normally you lose the front a little bit, you don't even notice it as much, but here it's very noticeable.
So, Richard, we're at Barber, and I know you appreciate bikes of all kinds. What do you think about the museum here? I mean, when was the first time you went through that museum?
Oh, it was 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I think it's probably, well, it's absolutely probably the largest motorcycle museum in the world. George has collected all kinds of motorcycles over so many years, and the displays are wonderful. The way the bikes are displayed, you can get close to them, and you can see them, you know, up really close and kind of see all the detail on them. But it's interesting to see how much he really appreciates motorcycle. This place is built for motorcycle racing. I mean, that was its primary use, and I think it's the only place like it really in the world where the track layout and the conditions and everything about it was driven towards motorcycles as opposed to cars first, then motorcycles. So it's gratifying to see a place like this, and the museum over there is just wonderful. And he's expanded it, and now it's become a kind of a thing into its own. I know they have a great big thing here in October that's a big vintage days and everything. So this is kind of the one of the, I guess, the East Coast mecca for motorcycling. I'd say Laguna maybe on the West Coast and here on the East Coast, or the Southeast anyway. So, but there's not a nicer place to race motorcycles in the world, I wouldn't think.
Great place for us to finish up our season, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we look forward to it. It's great. We have a blast here, and all the racers love coming here, the last race of the year. And the track is very challenging. With this new surface, it's just perfect.
I want to ask you guys, so this is last race of the weekend, 5th season. This is 5 seasons, you guys. Is this where you guys thought we would be? Did you think we'd be different than this, or are you feeling good about what the mission and what we're doing going forward? I mean, it's kind of a broad question, but 5 years is kind of a milestone for sure for this organization. So,
well, I think when we earlier today we were talking about how many bikes did we have at our first race?
Well, we've only doubled in size and entries.
Wow.
So the first race we were at 72 entries, I think. Tomorrow we'll be at 140.
Wow.
Okay, so that in itself says
it's a lot of jobs in the paddock.
A lot of jobs in the paddock. I mean, in fact, we looked at just the people that are here in the paddock with teams. There's over 1,000 people. They're every race that just do nothing but ride motorcycles, work on motorcycles, flag, marshal, grid staff, catering, everything that goes with this. There's well over 1,000 people. But the thing I think I look back to is after the first season, Wayne and myself and Chuck and Terry Carga sat down and we put together, we kind of went through saying, what do we want to do in the next 3 to 5 years? And I got to tell you, we've hit every one of them.
Wow.
So, and the biggest one on that was produce our own TV, be on live TV, and increase the social presence. But just about everything that I think maybe with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, we thought we wanted to do, we're at that point now.
You've had a lot of businesses, Richard, in your career. This is a business for you as well. These hitting milestones and marks, you have had those in all your businesses, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that what we see over and over again is that metrics make all the difference. I don't care if you're racing a motorcycle, the data is really crucial because you don't know if you're improving unless you can look at the data and look at it repeatedly over time. And that's true with what we're doing too. And so what we look at is kind of the changes in data in our social media, our TV viewership, gate, attendance, entries, but time on the track. You think about the ratings. If you want to say is one show better than the other, and you look at the ratings and you say, okay, now why is this show better? Why are we doing better on this show? And all that fits into what we're trying to do. And without it, you'd be lost. You wouldn't have any guideposts. So we kind of say, what do we want to do and how do we want to do it? And that tells us if we've gotten there or not. So
if you had to do it over again, we'd still do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, you look at where we were 5 years ago, there wasn't a lot of teams in the paddock, wasn't many racers, wasn't a lot of tracks. This thing was, it was struggling. So, I thought we would be here quicker than we were, but it was pretty rough times when we started.
Well, 5 years is not that long in a company, starting up and getting going and getting moving, especially something like this is a really complicated business. That's the thing that surprises me more than anything. Everything has to work right to work well, okay? And there's so many moving parts on this. It's amazing, and it's unique in a lot of businesses because it's not like television. Television, you have a program you put on. Well, this though, you have a live event that's just as important as a TV production, and then, oh, by the way, you've got this really great thing going on called racing over here, and that's got to be taken care of and curated and developed. So there's 3 or 4 big balls in the air here that every one of them has to be done well to make the whole thing do well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of racers come from overseas, from many different countries, and there's many different nationalities working inside our paddock. So it's really grown a lot.
Yeah.
And you guys have been seeing these riders that you saw a few years ago when it was KTM RC Cup or Junior Cup. Now they're starting to move up through the ranks. I mean, Ashton Yates is in Stock 1000, or Jackson Blackman's got a couple different classes he's racing in. I mean, that's one of the keys to what this whole program is, right? Is to try to get the next American world champion like you were, Wayne. So, I mean, you must have a good feeling about what's happening with that, developing.
Yeah, we're seeing the structure that we laid out from Junior Cup to the twins into Stock 1000, the 600 class, into the Superbike class. The Superbike class is at the same level as World Superbike, and we just want our MotoAmerica to be competitive so that if any rider as they move up, they have the competition from the classes they've been in, and if they do move into a World Championship series, they've been through the competitiveness of MotoAmerica, so it's not such a big jump. And this is why we have the World Superbike rules for Superbike, because if that's our highest level, that's the one we push, and we think we'll see some riders probably making that jump now.
Yeah, we've had people say to us, why would you want your people to go out and do this? Well, it's because they're that good and they should compete on that level. But in the meantime, if we're developing that good of rider here, there's nothing there that doesn't improve our side of it too. So if we're competing with everybody in the world and our guys are competing against those people, and that's what we're producing, then the standard kind of becomes, are they as good as MotoAmerica riders? Mm-hmm. And that's really, I think, something we're going to see, is that our standard's going to be up as good or better, and it's going to be pretty fluid back and forth. So I don't think, we'll see a few people leave maybe, but I think at some point they all want to come here and race. Mm. The money's better, I think, in a lot of cases. The tracks are different. I mean, it's a whole different lifestyle for a lot of guys. So I don't know. I'm optimistic that we'll get a lot of those people eventually want to come here, especially if we're competing on that level.
Yeah, every year we have riders from MotoGP and the World Superbike paddock looking for opportunities to race in America. I mean, it's still America. People still want to come here and race in our series and travel the U.S. and there's just something about America and its history and motorcycle racing that still exists, and so we're just paying it forward here.
Mm. Yeah. And Tony's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could give that guy the choice of going anywhere in the world, and this is where he's chosen to be.
Well, I think so. Yeah.
And he wants to be here forever.
Yeah, and he's made a life, and he's I think if you ask Tony, he's never had the opportunity that he has now here in America, and I don't think he's ever ridden as well as he is right now either.
That's really great to see.
Yeah, I mean, Valentin de Bice, he was in our series. We hear that he wants to be back here if he can figure out how to make it happen. And I mean, it's just he's in France and could do other things, but he likes America and likes our tracks. So it'd be cool to see that, more guys like that to do. So let's talk about the Super Sport Series a little bit and how that's coming down to the wire. I mean, we've got a rider. We talked about riders that have come from other countries, but we actually have a couple of riders in Jake Gagne, but PJ Jacobsen, who was racing internationally, come back in here. Took him a little while to get back up to speed. He claims it's the bike, but I think it's maybe a little bit the rider, because I think he realized, wow, there's some stiff competition, and he's in the deep end right now with everything. So what do you guys think of that class, and who's going on, who's involved in that with competition?
Well, I think that's one of my favorite classes to watch. I think it's very exciting. The championship's coming down between, I think it's 3 riders: PJ Jacobsen, Bobby Fong, and I think Hayden Gillum. But Sean Dillon Kelly's been in there, and it's been a very exciting race between these guys. I think when PJ came back from the World Championships, I think he finished second or third.
Second was his best, and pretty close to winning.
I mean, that's second in the World Championship. I don't care which series that is. That's really high. So I really didn't know where we stacked up compared to how he was going to fit in there. But I noticed right away that, that the American guys were on pace. I think PJ now he's found his feet. He's looked better the last couple races, but it's taken most of the year, though, to get to the level where these guys are. So whether it's getting used to the tracks or the bikes, but he certainly looks much more better than when he started here.
Yeah.
So it's been a duke out. There's been a couple riders been getting into each other. They, if there's a gap, those guys fill it quick, and sometimes when there's not a gap, it gets filled. So it's been fun to watch.
You don't mind that, right? I mean, to a point.
Well, I like it when the riders are racing because the championship means something. We certainly don't want guys saying, "Pardon me, excuse me, sorry about that." We want them in there battling for it. And sometimes, if if they bump, then that's just, that's part of racing. That's the way it's always been, and this is certainly no different.
And a little bit of that with Twins Cup too. There's been some banging with those guys too. They have a good time in that class, and there's a lot of riders in there. There's 44 riders here that they have to pare down to 35 because of the size of the track, but that's been a pleasant surprise. I mean, we kind of had that as a way to get club racers involved here, but we have Alex Duma in that thing. It's a good stepping stone, I think. So
well, that's been one of the real successes. Chuck came up with that idea.
We wanted to kill him like after the first race.
Yeah, the sixth. Well,
Chuck and our tech guy James, that was his favorite class.
It was originally Chuck's idea when there's 6 riders. It's been my idea since there's 40. Okay, so now it's my idea, and I'm glad I came up with it. So
it's an excellent
job.
one.
Thank you.
Very good.
Anyway, so I knew it'd work, and Alec Dumas, I think, is a great example of one of the kids. We didn't really realize it, but it makes perfect sense that it's sort of an intermediate step between that and super sport. And here's a guy that had done very well in Junior Cup, and he had nothing to gain by staying in Junior Cup. I mean, he could defend the number plate, and he really wanted to do it, but Wayne basically talked to him at length, and his dad and the family. And look how the guy's done. I mean, he was kind of working through it at the beginning of the season, but now he's charging. And he's done so well. I mean, that guy can go. He can go 100 different ways now. So
right.
I think that's a real success story. And he's what? How old is he?
16.
16 years old.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and he, like Richard said, he was our Junior Cup champion, and then he wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do. So then, he did the Twins, and now we're talking this weekend. He wants to go on to the 600 class right away. So I think that initial jump into the Twins Cup, now that he's had big success and he's been doing really well, he's going to try to wrap up the championship this year. And he wants to go all the way to the MotoAmerica Superbike class. So this is his home.
Wow, that's perfect.
Yep.
Let's talk about Rocco Landers a little bit in Junior Cup. I mean, Wayne, you've said this series, seeing a kid that starts out and is kind of dominant like that is what you're looking for. Tell us about what you think about what Rocco's done this year and what might happen for him in the future from your perspective.
Well, exactly right. When when you come to a series and you just never know who's going to be the breakout rider. For sure, Rocco was this year. At the first race, I didn't go to Atlanta, but I remember watching at the end of that first race, that first day on Live Plus on our Video Pass channel, Rocco had a 15-second lead. That has never happened in our Junior Cup class at all. And he had on some leathers that you could tell the kid races a lot. I mean, I think he raced every weekend for the last 10 years in those leathers. And but he was just like a star. He could just tell he was a natural. He has a lot of charisma, and he talks well, and the kid's fast. And so a kid like this, you just never know. He could go all the way. So he started here.
He just needs to become a little more confident, I think.
Yeah, the confidence.
Yeah, he lacks in that.
That's true.
Just a little bit. No, I tell you, you can tell that kid's a meat eater. He wants it.
Yeah,
it's
really
good for the other young kids that are in the class. They see this gap, and we've seen now the riders in that class really trying to push hard to try to challenge him. So it's always good to have a guy that that busts out like that, because it shows the rest of the class. It looks like there's some time here that we can work on. So
yeah.
All right, these are busy guys, so we'll wrap this up and let these guys get back
thanks,
to it.
for you guys starting this year. This has been great. I think it's been a real add.
This is our 47.
That's great.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year doing it. So
now it matches.
He
it matches
used
my
to
age.
start the show.
Yeah.
But now you start the show.
No, we kick it around a little
Yeah.
bit.
Is that what it is?
somehow when we do the video thing, he has me do it. I don't know why, and
Yeah, we don't either.
I don't have a face for video, so I don't know.
You have a face
That's
for
why
radio, right?
Yes, I do.
Face for
That's why I
radio.
let you speak.
Yeah, get him out of the way. Then we can move the camera off him. No, it's great to have you guys on. I mean, we've had Wayne. We had you on earlier in the year on just audio, but getting both you guys on together is terrific. I mean, it's the KRAVE Group. You guys are just great. You're like a buddy film. You guys, you know, you are. You're like Hoffman and Newman, or one of those, you know, Newman and
Who are you?
Newman and Redford.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
See,
you're
this
Newman,
is
he's
why I have to
Redford.
tell him we're stopping probably 7 minutes
We
before
gotta
we
wrap
actually
it up.
stop.
I know, but I gotta
Okay,
put it.
all right.
You know,
I gotta
see
put
how
a
that
bow
works?
on it.
That's right.
You know.
Well, we know there's not two other guys in this paddock that have more experience and know what's going on in this paddock than you and Paul. So
Oh, thanks.
Now I'm
Appreciate
all
that.
warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
get
Come
your
to the
hand off my
races.
leg.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.